Greetings and salutations. Welcome to episode 140 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner, and we are running the ball here today on episode 140. Lots of things to talk about. Of course, we've got our week 4 predictions there to happen in the cool down. It's Filthy Philly week, Stoner, as Washington heads up to the link to try to make it 3-1 in their last 4 games against Philadelphia and make it the second regular season loss of Jalen Hurts' career. We'll see if that happens. And we're going to talk all about that in the game. Make sure you stick around for that. We got lots of people already here in the chat. No one's sleeping here in the chat. Nicole and very early Clifton in there as well. Kim joining us tonight. HT, be a fan. Always love it. The warm up here. A little runner pass session here as yes, Stoner. Sir. You had some wonderful rants during our live stream, and you continued those on DAR, our day after reckoning. And I just have a feeling you haven't let this go.
No,
I have a feeling that you and we are team run the ball here, right? Like we very much feel that is a strength this team can have.
And by we, you mean me, right? Because I think before we came on here, you were saying something about not being a run the damn ball.
No, what I did say was I am a little bit more in line with the new age, and I have some information. You got some information as well to share. So this warm up here is kind of the question: run or pass. We all know to really beat Philadelphia, we're going to have to run. The problem is, Stoner, Philadelphia is really good against the run.
They good luck with that.
Yeah. So, but the question is, season long, Eric Bieniemy so far has brought that Kansas City mentality. Unfortunately, he did not bring Patrick Mahomes with him.
Right.
So while we have a heavy pass to run ratio, it doesn't seem to be working as much. And you got some good stats for us, right?
Yeah, let's just start off with what has happened so far this year in terms of run to pass ratio. Last year in Kansas City, with, as you said, Eric Bieniemy being the offensive coordinator and Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, they threw the ball 62% of the time and ran it 38%. That's your new age sort of style of offense that everyone seems to be grabbing onto. Pass to set up the run.
Oh man, I had my button ready and everything.
Not ready yet. The new age is to pass to set up the run. Well, the old schoolers don't necessarily agree with that, but that's a debate for another day.
So that is what this debate is, though, right?
Right. Like, well, it's new age versus old age, I guess. Old age, this guy over here. But 62% of the time they threw the ball with a 2-time MVP, a 3 or 4-time Super Bowl attendee, a 2-time Super Bowl winner, all that experience with a 6th-round running back. Pacheco is their main guy. They didn't even have Tyreek Hill anymore, but they still threw the ball 62% of the time. So far in the 3 games this year, with Eric Bieniemy running the show here in Washington, they're throwing the ball 65% of the time with an inexperienced quarterback and a better crop of running backs. They're throwing the ball more in Washington than they did in Kansas City last year. And sure, you can always say, hey, it's early. It's only 3 games in, but that's all we have to go off of. That's all the stats that we have to go off of. But that's my whole point is they're throwing the ball way too much. And in the first half of games, I don't know what Kansas City was doing in the first half of games. I just know what Washington, because I went back and charted every single play from the first half this year. And this includes dropbacks where maybe Sam ran. This includes dropbacks where he got sacked. This includes dropbacks that were called back because of penalty. But they've dialed up 85 pass plays in the first half and 21 runs so far this year. That's a 4-to-1 ratio. That's 84%. something to that effect, very close to that. I don't have the percentage. Why is this team coming out again with an inexperienced quarterback and just throwing the ball all over the place? I'm posing that question to you, Nathan. Why do you think that's okay to do that, Mr. New Age? Throw the ball all the time.
So, I'm not throw the ball all the time, but I do understand what they're doing and how that is effective and why it's what works. And I do have some stats on here to answer your question is why are they doing that? Well, that's what they hired Eric Bieniemy for.
84% of the time.
Eric Bieniemy is bringing his offense to this team. If they didn't want Eric Bieniemy's offense, they shouldn't have hired Eric Bieniemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. And
can
his offense,
can he ease it in a little bit? Why does he just have to go full bore? Let's throw it all over the place.
What about Washington, the team, doesn't fit Eric Bieniemy's offense? Which, by the way, they've been moving the ball fairly well.
You're correct.
They have been moving the ball. What they've failed to do is put up points, largely because they end drives in either turnovers or they go for and forth and they don't make it, right?
Or
so
sacks.
Or sacks, yes.
Right.
So they're having a lot of drives that end horribly, but they've been able to drive the ball. So what is it about Eric Bieniemy's offense that doesn't work here in Washington? Because that's what we're going to get. And the rest of this year, we're going to get an Eric Bieniemy offense unless Ron Rivera boldly fires him mid-season and promotes the running game coordinator or something like that.
Right. Well, let me tell you what doesn't work with Eric Bieniemy's offense so far, and that's Sam Howell. Right now, Sam Howell is – I'm coming for you, TJ. Right now, Sam Howell is not working for this offense. It's a lot of recency theory or whatever. This one game is in our heads, and it was so bad for Sam. We forget the game before he was awesome. And they put up points all over the place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then we look at Denver and we say, well, Denver's the worst defense.
Denver did give up 70 points.
10 years.
I really wish Miami would have kicked that field goal.
Yeah. But the point being that right now Sam is not working in Eric Bieniemy's offense because he's taken too many snaps. Eric Bieniemy is calling a play that is a 5-step drop or a 7-step drop, and Sam is not delivering the ball because either he doesn't have enough time or the receivers aren't open. I heard a stat that Washington's receivers are number 2 in the NFL, and
they're taking
not
too
being
long
open.
Yeah,
right.
So, and as far as
everything,
not giving him enough time, I think I wish I would have bookmarked this. Sam Howell, I think, has got the second most time to pass.
Right.
So.
He does, on average, have the second most in the entire NFL time to make a decision, and he's not making the decision. Whether it's because those receivers are covered, it's not schemed properly, or he's unwilling to throw to his checkdowns. Because we've seen time and time again, his checkdowns are there. He's just unwilling to get rid of it.
I watched every one of those 9 sacks, Stoner, and on at least two of them, he looked right at the check down, and you could see it mentally process through his head. There's my check down.
Right.
I got to move.
Right.
And then gets sacked there.
Right. Why won't he throw to his check down? It's just maybe they're drilling into his head that it's so about moving,
it's some processes and everything here. So a couple things is so for our audio listeners, you might have heard Stoner call out TJ. It's because TJ having a little fun with Stoner here, saying Stoner only hates the forward pass because the forward pass wasn't a thing yet. Yeah, that's we like to tease Stoner about his age. That one's there. Some talk about Greg Roman in the chat. A lot of people were thinking that would have been the better offensive coordinator because that was kind of in line with the Ron Rivera and Marty Mayhew run 2 times to 1 time. And Gus Bus here saying one game, Stoner, come down. And it's one game that we've lost and Sam had a bad game, but it's not one game that the play calls have been this way.
Right.
And so it's been heavily, again, Eric Bieniemy is who Eric Bieniemy is. He's going to call these pass plays, whether or not you want him to or not. And Roger, I don't think is in the chat yet, but we know Roger's another one of those run the ball people.
Yeah, he is.
But the thing is, again, that's not the offensive coordinator we have, and honestly, it shouldn't be. So I went through, and this was just before because I was just thinking about this.
Okay.
Of the successful teams. That's apparently a very hard word for me this evening. The teams that make the playoffs over the last 3 years, by and large, have been efficient and good at passing. And so I actually looked up the EPA stats here, which, in case you're unfamiliar with it, I'll read off their definition here. That's the expected points added. Okay. Foundationally, EPA is the difference in expected points before and after each play. Expected points is an estimate of how many points a team will score on a drive given the current situation, down, distance, time remaining, and everything, right? So what
super
this kind of
nerdy stat, but it's
super nerdy, just like
the
Football Outsiders, which no longer is really a thing, the DVOA stuff. I love all these super nerdy stats, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why I'm more of a passing guy than Stoner. I do believe in running the ball. I love the running backs that we got on this team, and I do think we can find some success. But when you look at the playoff teams, I have all of them right here and all my handwritten notes. Mm-hmm. The by and large, the 14 teams that make the playoffs are essentially the 14 teams that are the most efficient at passing. And that's essentially what EPA is, right? So it's when you're talking about passing, and you brought up some of the Sam Howell, 5-step, 7-step drops and how that's a problem, right? Because he's still trying to process. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about efficiency, it's not about getting a first down on 1st and 10, though the best way to avoid a bad third down conversion rate is just never be on third down, right? Mm-hmm. So like a success rate, and I know this for DVOA, I haven't looked too much in the EPA, but when it comes to your first down, how many yards would you say is successful?
4.
6.
What do you mean 4 is not successful? Or 4, just in order for this stat to be...
4 is average, right? 4 is like, okay, it's not a complete failure, but it didn't necessarily make it there. So, and then like, how many yards do you need on like second down and third down, right? This is why it aggravates me when I watch some of these check downs, right? On 4th, if you're going for it on 4th and 8, like we saw Kirk Cousins do, I think last year, was it? Maybe the year before, and he threw 4 yards short.
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, that's an unsuccessful mentality there, right? Like you only have one down to make that. Throwing it short of the sticks isn't going to work, right? Especially when you're not throwing it into a space where people can run. Same with the third down. The problem is Washington. John Keim, I think, posted a great stat about this. Maybe it was John Keim.
I think you're right.
First and 10, Washington's throwing an exuberant amount of times, right? Mm-hmm. 2nd and 10, they're continuing to throw it. They have not run the ball a lot on 2nd and 10. And I think that's probably where it's a problem, because if you don't, and I understand that's a big thing for people who are against the pass and would prefer to run the ball, right? If you're throw it on first, which you need to throw it on first every time, or not every time, but like you need to mix it up, because if every time you're running the ball on 1st and 10, people are going to know it's coming.
Sure.
So you got to be able to mix it up. On 2nd and 10, you still got to be able to mix it up, but you got to at least get yards, because if you miss the pass on 2nd and 10, you're now looking at 3rd and 10, and that's a hard down and distance to get there. So the team needs to work on this passing efficiency. The one I actually did go 3 years back, by the way, in 2020, you might have remembered Washington sneaking into the playoffs.
Sure.
They were the 31st most efficient passing team.
Yeah, that was the year started off with Haskins and then Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Maybe Kyle Allen for a game. And then eventually they had no quarterback standing at the end, and they called up Taylor Heineke for that last game and then the playoff game.
Yep. So they kind of backdoored it, right? Losing record and everything. They also had a strong defense, and they were also 9th in expected points added on rushing. So they had a strong rushing tack that year to go with the defense, and that's how they snuck in. And by and large, that is also how these other teams who weren't in the top 14, again, 14 teams make the playoffs, and essentially almost every year, the top 14 teams in the EPA passing are the ones who end up there.
All right, let me challenge you a little bit on that. Of those 14 quarterbacks, work with me here. I mean, those 14 teams that made the playoffs. Read me the quarterbacks, or go through the teams.
I'll go through the teams here. Do you want last year? We'll start with last year because it's probably easier for us to remember.
Yeah, we don't
just last year. Okay, Kansas City over the AFC. Okay, Buffalo Bills,
Josh Allen,
Bengals,
Joe Burrow,
Jacksonville,
Trevor Lawrence,
Chargers.
My favorite, Herbert.
Okay, Ravens.
Lamar.
Not Lamar.
Well,
yeah,
he was there most of the year.
And Miami. He was there for, I think he missed 7 games last year is what he missed.
Most of the year. Again, he wasn't there in the playoffs, but Tua.
On the NFC side, you got Philly.
All right, Jalen Hurts.
49ers.
Was Brock Purdy most of the year?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's who really led them, yeah.
Who did they start
Vikings.
Okay. It was Kirk.
Dallas.
Dak.
Bucks.
Who's Tampa? So was Brady.
Giants.
Was Daniel Jones.
And Seattle.
Okay, it was Geno.
Giants, by the way, 12th on EPA for passing last year, which I thought was a little bit surprising, given this kind of what I was looking into this. I got into a Giants fan who was trying to say passing touchdowns are not a indicative stat on whether or not a QB is good. It's garbage, by the way. But let's move on.
But my point, other than maybe San Francisco with Brock Purdy, an anomaly, every one of those quarterbacks is an experienced quarterback. Here in Washington, you want to all of a sudden take what all these quarterbacks who've been in the league for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and have proven themselves, and you want to bring that same thinking into a team where a guy is starting his second, his third, and his fourth game. And just all of a sudden he's going to know and understand these concepts and be able to prove everything out. That's the problem, Nathan, is that you're dealing with a guy who has never started a game at the NFL level except one coming into this year.
Yeah, he's raw. He's raw, and this is where.
So stop throwing him into the fire and saying, I'm going to do the same thing to you what I did to Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes was a second-year starter himself there.
I'm talking about
definitely
last year.
Difference. Sure. Now, but here's the thing. They see the promise in Sam Howell, right? We've seen it. We've seen it. We've seen him throw these laser passes that look absolutely great.
Throw the ball. You just can't do it. It's not feasible, and it's going to lead to what? It's going to lead to what we saw last week. And again, it's a little bit of recency effect because this game is on our mind. But let's not forget in the first half of these other 3 games, when he was out there just slinging it all over the place, the first game, he dropped back 33 times in the first half. And they ran the ball 9 times, and they were losing at halftime. In the second game, he dropped back 36 times and only ran the ball 7 times, and they were losing at the half. And then this game, he dropped back 16 times, and they ran the ball 5 times, and they were losing at the half. That is a pattern now. We've got to get them. We've got to get a hotline into Commander's Park and Eric Bieniemy's office and say, this is a pattern now. You have to stop doing this. In the first drive of the game, the first thing they did was they ran the ball. And they were successful with it, right? 7 yards on the first play of the game. The second play of the game was a quick pass to, I think, McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin.
Third, they ran the ball again. 5 yards. They're moving down the field. And then what happens? Sack, interception. So he dropped back.
Your memory's a little bit off there, by the way. So
Why is that?
So they ran for 7, passed to McLaurin for 5. They ran B-Rob for 5 yards, then passed to McLaurin for 10 yards, then deep pass to Cole Turner for 21 yards.
Right.
Then it was sack, interception.
Okay, my mistake. So they ran it for 7, ran it through a pass for 5, ran it for 5, pass.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
but
what
you
happened?
you have 31 yards off of 2 passes. That's successful. Why wouldn't you go back to that?
Because then what happens? The linebacker drops way back, and you've got no
I'm not
hole.
talking about the interception. I'm talking about the first sack. You're acting like he, when he did the pass got sacked. That was a horrible thing. I can understand the fourth one, maybe not going back to pass there on what would have been second and 18. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, it was an 8-yard sack there.
And then it was a 1-yard sack. And then
it was 1 yard.
And on 3rd and 19, we complain about only using screens on 3rd and 19, right?
Sure.
Or draws or whatever. But this is why. Because the linebackers are playing 15 yards
deep, way deep there.
and there's no holes there. And if you try to force it in, then instead of kicking a field goal, you've turned it over.
Which would have been about a 51 yarder.
Yeah, which he nailed at the end of the game. We remember well.
Yeah.
But the point is that you were successful running the ball right from the beginning. And we even said it.
Passing the ball.
Yes, you were. But you were successful starting out running the ball in 2 of your first 3 plays. Maybe that's what opened up those passing lanes.
Again, I'm going to bring this. The offense was successful at moving the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Howell had a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there's no excuse for that. Right. And maybe Eric Bieniemy could have called a different game, but they got down to the 34-yard line at the end of that drive when they were intercepted. They had another 7-play, 73-yard drive that ended at the Buffalo 2.
Right, when they couldn't get in.
And then they couldn't get it. Then at the end, then they had a 10-play drive that ended at the Buffalo 50. Buffalo 15 with another interception.
What happened in that drive? They're moving
the ball.
What happened in that drive? You had a 24-yard run by B-Rob. You had a 13-yard run by Gibson. And then you had maybe even another 4-yard run, something like that. You have to mix it up. You got to stop throwing. 16 dropbacks and 5 runs in the first.
So you said you want to mix it up, right? So, okay. Get your fingers out, okay, on that 10-play drive.
Okay.
Brian Robinson, run right tackle, 4 yards.
Yep.
Sam Howell, pass incomplete. So we're 1-1, right? Sam Howell, pass incomplete. Penalty gets us the first down.
We won't count that, even though that was a drop back. I count those in my drop backs, but
all right. Sam Howell passed Terry McLaurin 1 yard. Gibson run left end for 4 yards. Which
that I think should have been a fumble. That was the Terry McLaurin one that should have been a fumble.
Yeah, that should have been a fumble. We got very lucky there. Sam Howell pass to Gibson, 10 yards, first down.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Howell pass short right to Dotson, 6 yards. And then this is actually the first. Sorry, we got a first down later after this. So that was Dotson. All right, now another run, 23 yards by B-Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's 1st and 10 at Buffalo 30. Gibson to the right for 13 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Robinson right for 2 yards.
Yep.
Sam Howell pass intercepted. So
5 and 5.
You got run, pass, and then he's intercepted. I'm telling you, like, you were acting like, and yes, it is when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's definitely more skewed towards the passing. Even the first half is skewed towards the passing, but that drive, we just counted up, and he's mixing it up. And again, they were moving the ball.
Yeah, mix it up.
It's a bad day by your QB. They did. They were 5 and 5.
Exactly. And they moved the ball because they added the runs.
Both of those long drives we talked about, and they had a horrible second half, by the way.
We don't even talk about the fourth quarter when it was just like they were down. They were at some point they were down 23-0.
Yeah, it was 23. Then the interception touchdown made it 30-0.
30, and they were just still just dropping back.
That
quarterback
opening drive we just listed was the opening for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was 5 plays, 6 yards, 1 play fumble, 3 plays, 5 yards. So it was the interception touchdown, 3 plays and punt. And then the 8 play, 42 yards, kick the field goal to make sure it's not a skunk.
You're putting this young quarterback at risk of killing his confidence, of getting hurt by passing the ball.
You're definitely David Carring us. You absolutely you're putting him back there to get sacked. What did we count up? 107 times.
Wait, I want to address this. Luke is saying that Stoner's getting worked up after Nathan proving he's mixing it up. That's my point. Mix it up. Most of the drives that ended it.
You're saying the 3 and outs were so here's I'm just gonna pick one that we weren't down. I'm gonna try to okay, so here we go. 3 and out with a punt. Brian Robinson right for 1 yard. Sam Howell incomplete to Dots, and Sam Howell sacked for 10 yards. You got a 3rd and 9. I'm not sure you were asking us to run there. The pass incomplete to Dotson was what made that one dead. That was a good drive. This was 3 plays with the interception. Okay. Sam Howell passed to Terry McLaurin for 4 yards. Sam Howell passed short left to Cole Turner for 5 yards, making it 3rd and 1. And then this is where he tried to throw that pass to Gibson, and he had a guy right in his face, and it was an ugly pass, and it was intercepted.
Brian Robinson had 10 rushes for 70 yards. Okay. In his 10th rush was with 5:50 to go in the 3rd quarter. That's it. They never, you can check. I don't think Gibby ran it either. I don't think they ran the ball not one time when there was 5:50 to go in the 3rd quarter. After he ran it for 13 yards, I'm not sure that they ran it again. Maybe Gibson had one run the rest of the game, but I don't think they ran it the rest of the game. And you've got a guy who's averaging 7 yards a carry. And I know the score started to get away from them.
Yeah,
but you still got to mix it in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 16-point game with 10 minutes to go into the 4th quarter, or in the 4th quarter there.
Yeah.
So Gibson's fumble happened on a pass play.
Right.
And
I don't think they ran the ball ever again.
And that was the one I wanted to check, because you mentioned specifically the 5:50. Brian Robinson left in for 13 yards.
Yes.
Sam Howell sack. Pass for 15 yards, penalty on Gates, bringing it back, no play, making it 3rd and 22. So you pass to Gibson, who goes backwards, punt. And then it was the fumble, which was a pass play. And then all of a sudden, 3 plays later, you're down. You're off 3 offensive plays later, you're down 30-23 or 30-0. So
30-0.
Yeah, you're not really going to run it at that point.
You do have to. Teams still do down 30-0. Not very much.
Not in the 4th quarter.
They do, but even like I was saying at the very last drive that they had, that when Sam Howell just kept going back and just kept getting sacked, when it was 30-0 or 37-0, it should have been Chris Rodriguez left, Chris Rodriguez right, Chris Rodriguez center, with Jacoby Brissett handing him the ball. You're not coming back. Your quarterback's not going to learn anything by being out there down 37-0 when the defensive linemen are just pinning their ears back and coming after you. They've already got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sacks already, and they just want more. And it's not conducive to helping that quarterback. Everyone says reps. Those aren't good reps. There are good reps and there are bad reps. Those would be bad reps. So
any rep's a good rep for him right now. Authentic in the chat here. You can't run the ball. Lots of great comments. Guest Bus, I'm going to need you to rewrite this one when we get to the Philly breakdown, because I can't believe this is actually a thought here.
Yeah, forfeit the game. It's just forfeit and make sure everybody's healthy for Chicago.
Brian here. We're 2-1. We finally have a QB with lots of potential. I'm giving the team to week 6 to figure out the identity of the offense. I'm going to tell you, Brian, the identity of the offense is going to be Eric Bieniemy, and it's going to be pass, and it's going to be live by the sword, die by the sword type play here. What I expect Eric Bieniemy to do going forward, and this is a little sneak peek into the Philadelphia thing, is I expect him to work with his young quarterback and these wide receivers that are fast, that apparently aren't getting open. We know Dotson and Terry McLaurin could get open on anybody. They're not getting open, or they're taking a while to get open. I expect Eric Bieniemy to start scheming better ways to get them open, and also shrink the field for Sam Howell. Have him go through two progressions and then dump. Have him do it. 1 there, not there. 2 there, not there, dump. And have it just be super quick for him. Have him throw to one side, only looking at one side. You obviously mix up the side, and you use the middle, break it up into thirds. There's ways that he can make this game easier for Sam Howell, because he is going to continue doing that.
They had one rollout. He moved the pocket on purpose one time the entire game.
And Shadow Pop's talking about that here.
Yeah. Okay. And I know that a lot of people don't necessarily like rollouts too much, because you've basically taken one side of the field away. If you're rolling out to the right, you're not throwing all the way back to the left, unless you're in some gadget play. But for the most part, you're not. So you're only using one half of the field, but it's still effective. He's not getting hit. You're moving him away from that pass rush. And as you said, you've got some talented receivers. On the one rollout, Terry McLaurin did what Terry McLaurin does. He was wide open and he threw it to him. They had 2 screens called the entire day. One was called back on a penalty on Nick Gates, and the other one was the Gibson fumble, which that was a play that wasn't going anywhere anyway, but still, that's it. And after last week's success of throwing all them screens, this week, those were the only ones called. So basically in the official stat book, it was 1 to Gibson. So I don't know where that went. These are the kinds of things that if you've got a fierce pass rush, then you've got to do things. You've got to scheme things to help that young quarterback, so he doesn't stand back there and try and go through 2, 3, 4 reads and ends up getting himself killed when you've got a weak offensive line. You can't think that he's Patrick Mahomes back there and that he's just going to do all kinds of great stuff, because that's Bieniemy's offense. So he's got to figure it out. You got to play to your players' strengths, to your team strengths, not the other way around. We've talked about it for years. The coaches have to scheme to the players' strengths, not say, this is my scheme. You guys figure it out how to do better for my scheme.
All I'm saying, if that's the route they wanted to go, they wouldn't have hired Eric Bieniemy here. TJ asking for more RPOs. They ran several RPOs.
Yeah, they did run several.
Some of those ended up in sacks, and some of them ended up in interceptions.
And some of them were runs. I thought they ran a fair amount of RPOs.
Luke here, scheme them open. Also, a point we made earlier. Thank you for watching some of our other content. Where are the play actions? That's where, you gotta, and we've seen a couple. I think the problem, you're not going to see a whole lot of play actions in this offense, just because they don't put Sam Howell under center a lot.
Right.
And that's really where you see a play action, because once you're in shotgun, that's more of the RPO territory.
Right.
Exactly. Do I hand this or keep this myself? Do I hand this or do I throw this? Those are more of those decisions being made in shotgun, and they're putting him in shotgun to, again, kind of account for, similar to the way you are rolling him out to the right or rolling him to the left, is it gets him already there where he can see the field and he's away from those pass rushers. And the offensive line is certainly not great. They're not horrendous, though.
I would disagree, but okay.
I would put them somewhere between the horrendous and not great. Like they're in there.
Another question for you that I haven't been able to figure out. We like to use stats, and we like to use next gen stats, and we like to use PFF, and we like to use this Football Outsiders, and on and on and on, right? But they don't tell this whole story, obviously.
No, you got to watch the games.
You have to watch the greatest evaluation that you can ever do is right here on everybody. Just use your own eyes, and you can figure it out.
No sniff test, Stoner?
Test. I wanted to use sniff test, but but here's something that I found amazing. We look at the PFF scores for Washington, and they're actually pretty good. Correct?
They're not bad
for the offensive line.
Yeah. This last particular game, Wiley and Gates were horrendous. Charles was okay. And Leno and Cosme. Cosme's been a breath of fresh air out there at right guard.
Here's the problem.
He's had a good season. So
here's the problem with those stats. For pressures from PFF, Charles Leno had 0 pressures. He gave up 0 pressures. Sadiq Charles gave up 3, Nick Gates 4, Sam Cosme 0, and Andrew Wiley 3. That, by my math, is 10 pressures that the offensive line gave up.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo's defense had 33 pressures. So if your offensive line is only giving up 10 pressures according to one stat, but another stat says the defense was created 33 pressures, where are the other 23 pressures?
There were a lot of free rushers.
That, to me,
is offensive line.
Well, that's where the stats, and this is, the sniff test, the eye test, says, well, Charles Leno didn't get called for a pressure, but he's the one, a guy came off at his end and had a free rush.
Yeah.
And the quarterback.
There's definitely the reasoning why you have to take some of those.
It's a lot of empty pressures that get put on nobody on offense.
Sure.
Nobody gets the blame for that specifically because the offensive line is only giving up 10 pressures. You're going to tell me when you watch that game that you say the offensive line only gave up 10 pressures all game, even though another stat, I think it was a next-gen stat, said that of the 36 dropbacks that he had, that Sam Howell had, like 32 or 33 were pressured, which is the most in the history of next-gen stats that, it's only like 10 years old.
Exactly.
So
I will say this.
But you look at the PFF and you say, the offensive line, they were fine. They wasn't their problem. Well, somebody's problem.
Going back and cataloging the stats or the sacks rather, I forgot. I mean, it did feel like he was under pressure all game, and it felt
every
like
time.
It felt like he was sacked every drive. There was no. They didn't. The offensive line did not give up a sack in the second quarter, and 4 of those drives had back-to-back sacks. So 8 of your 9 sacks came back-to-back.
Back for like second down and third down.
Yes. And that's killer. That was what was killer there. Yeah. And I thought was fairly surprising because when I started looking at it in game and charting and stuff like this, I was just like, he did have time. And it shows too. Even the sacks he's taken these sacks at 3+ seconds. Sure. And I will say this, and this is why I said the offensive line's not great. Is Buffalo was getting pressure with 4 rushers.
Right. Almost every time.
Only twice did Sam get sacked with 5 or more rushers. The second sack was 5. The third sack was 6. And you can't do that. Like if you have 5 guys up against 4, you need to be able to protect the quarterback. Like he should have all day back there for somebody to get open. So
the 4th down play in the end zone on their second drive, maybe it was a third drive, sorry, when it was 4th and goal at the 2 and Sam got that pressure. 3 Washington offensive linemen were blocking 1 Bill, and there were 2 guys charging at Sam Howell and caused him to, I don't even know if it was tipped or whatever it was. He was thrown off his back foot to a guy who wasn't open because, there's 7 defenders back there in the end zone in that short space. And but you're not going to get a pressure on the offensive line on that. But Sam Howell was under tremendous pressure. And because 3 guys for the offensive line were blocking 1 defensive tackle, because that's the way either they thought they saw it or listen, Buffalo is a very good defense. Sean McDermott is a defensive coach. That's where
and they have names too.
Are.
Buffalo fans wanted to remind us that they are no slouch and have names.
They're good. They're very good.
Yeah.
If you see the schemes that they were running, they were bringing linebackers, and the defensive tackles or defensive ends were dropping off, and they were bringing safeties, and safeties were coming up from deep to come up, like the Micah Hyde interception. Micah Hyde was playing safety, but he knew exactly where he needed to be on that play, and he came charging all the way up to cover Antonio Gibson on that interception, even though he was a safety. So I can see why Sam Howell thought Antonio Gibson would have been all alone, because there was nobody on him when the play started. But they have a very good scheme defensively because McDermott is a defensive coach. And they messed with a young quarterback's head with all these different alignments.
Precisely what it was that they
That's
needed
why you got to
do.
run the ball more.
Maybe.
And speaking of, I want to bring up. I know we
got. There we go. I was about to do it for you. If you
got to bring up these stats, this little trivia. This is going to be a lot of fun for everybody. This is a quarterback comparison that I'm throwing out here. Sam Howell is on the top. This is his first 4 starts in the league. This includes the Dallas game. So Dallas from last year, the first 3 this year. So he's 76 for 118, 64%, 840 yards, 4 and 6, 19 sacks, and a 75.5 rating. I have 4 other quarterbacks in here. And this is a wide variety of quarterbacks. And I'm going to, because you're not going to be able to guess them all, because they come from different eras sometimes, and they're just all over the place. But I want to compare so that we can kind of see what Sam's doing in his first 4 starts.
Well, comparatively, he's doing. I mean, it almost looks like you brought up QBs that have thrown 4 touchdowns and how many interceptions, because all but one of them, unknown QBC, they only have 2 touchdowns to 4.
I just tried to bring up somebody with similar stats in their first 4 games of their career.
Okay.
This is not, I didn't cherry pick 4 games here, a game here, a game there, whatever. This is the first 4 games of each player's career.
Our friends over at Command This saying Peyton, Tom Brady, Eli, and Drew Brees.
None of them are in here.
Wow.
None of those 4 are in here.
Gus saying Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is not in there. Anybody else? Heath Schuler.
That
not
would be
in there. But hey, you're getting close. I'll tell you one I didn't put in there that I wanted to. And one is I wanted to put the pylon diver in there. But he's not in there.
How you're avoiding the name because you don't want to put a dollar in the jar.
His first 4 starts, trounce. Sam Howell's first 4 starts. I have it here if you want to hear. Real quick.
Let's hear it.
Taylor Heineke's first 4 starts. I didn't add them all up, but 2, 4, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. 1 loss, 1 loss. Win, lose, win, lose. So he was 2-2. All these quarterbacks.
How many yards did he have?
He had.
Eyeball it for us.
Okay, 560 plus 300 is 860 plus 250, about 1,200, close to 1,200 yards in his first 4 games. Really good. He had some 1,100, not 1,200. A lot.
It's also as like a 28-year-old, right?
Yes, but still, first 4 starts.
So for our audio listeners here, we've got 4 unknown QBs up there. Sam Howell is kind of in the mix of all of them with his 840 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The standout here is the 19 sacks, and then it gets way worse there. Only one of them has a better passer rating than Sam Howell, and Sam Howell's right there in the mix as far as completion percentage.
Like I said, good. I tried to get him very similar. So, I went through a whole bunch of ideas of who it might be. or who might match up well with
We got a
Sam
few
Howell.
more names here.
right.
Kenny Pickett,
Kenny Pickett's not in here.
Daniel Jones,
Daniel Jones is not in here.
Dwayne Haskins.
Like I said, one of them is in the Hall of Fame. Let me just say that right now. First ballot. Already. Not like
Not
Brady
a
and Peyton
soon to be, but it's
right.
Okay.
I will give away the bottom one. I thought the bottom one would give it away just because of the sacks.
It was Carr. It was David Carr. Yeah.
Is Andre? Whoops, sorry. I think we
Andre there with David Carr.
That's
David
the
Carr,
last one on the
519 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 26 sacks, 50
Brutal.
rating. Also,
Brutal.
I want to note here and the big difference between the two and why I do think that Sam Howell's going to improve and not become the next David Carr is the 64.4% completion percentage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a different era too in terms of style of offense.
Sure.
You were slinging it more downfield back then, where it's a little bit more of a shorter
Make excuses
West Coast
for
offense.
David Carr if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had one game where he had a rating of 8.
Yeah, David Carr was not good. I mean,
but I mean, he went on to start for them for another 5 years.
Yeah,
until he got beat up too much, and he could barely.
He was not a great quarterback.
8.2 he had in one of these games.
All right, so unknown QB D is David Carr.
Yes, that's David Carr at the bottom. I mean,
are any of these others in the division? Any of them Washington?
No. Let's just go from the top. QB-A. All right. QB-A,
1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3 sacks.
And a 72 rating. QB-A is Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, first ballot Hall of Famer, 3-time Super Bowl winner. I think it's 2 or 3. His first 4 games, we remember 1989, they went 0 with him as the starter. I think they went 0-11 for him.
They were 1-15 that year.
Yeah, it was really bad.
The one win against Washington.
They stuck with him, and he turned into a Hall of Famer. It was like game 6. It might have been game 5 or game 6 is when Steve Walsh. They just had enough of seeing what Aikman was doing. They brought Steve Walsh in to start a game, and then Aikman won the job back. But that's just a comparison. This is if you want to look at Sam Howell and say that's not great. Well, Troy Aikman is right up there with you. QB-B.
810 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 12 sacks, 80 rating.
Very, very similar stats. You love this guy, Nathan? His name is Davis Mills. Davis Mills, those are his first 4 starts for Houston 2 years ago. He went on to start another year, and they said, he ain't it. We're drafting CJ Stroud. Okay, so you've got the Troy Aikman Super Bowl Hall of Famer, and then you've got Davis Mills. Then QB-C is a guy who was a Pro Bowler last year, but he's not a good quarterback.
65% completion rating, 772 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 15 sacks, and a 69.9 rating. Those are for our audio listen. Tyler Huntley.
Huntley is QB-C.
He's not a good QB.
Right.
He's a great preseason QB.
Very similar stats to Sam Howell. The whole point of this is everything that I said about all of this, about Sam Howell and him having this horrific game and a lot of the sacks are on him and all of this. It's too early. It's been 4 games in the NFL for Sam Howell. He could turn into QB-A, which is Troy Aikman, or he could turn into QB-C, which is Tyler Huntley, or he might even be a David Carr, where he is a starter for 4 or 5 years, but eventually just gets too beat up and can't even stand up anymore. It's too early to make any declarations on Sam Howell, and it's definitely too early to start calling for Jacoby Brissett.
Far too early.
I wanted to bring that side of it after just murdering Sam Howell in this offense for 30 minutes. I wanted to be able to offset it a little bit and say it's too early.
A lot of blame going into the O-line here. That's not the you guys are doing a great job with the comments. I'm just doing a horrible job with the clicking here. HT, Sam holding on too long. Yes. Patting the ball, not a problem. And staring down throws, that is a problem. And several of those interceptions, when we looked at him on the day after reckoning, he was laser focused on the guy he was throwing to. You can't do that. And that was something that I thought Kirk Cousins way back away, he predetermined a lot of his throws. Kirk Cousins did. And he would do this thing where he would look purposely in the other direction, knowing he's going to throw to the other side, and then like whip his head and then launch the ball. And he would end up with some interceptions that way because it was just so obvious what he was doing. The pylon diver knew how to look off receivers. He couldn't make a deep throw to save his life, although he had a couple, I guess. But he can look it off, and that's something Sam's going to develop. And we have seen him do that. We've seen him use his shoulders and his head and move a safety and then launch the ball in this tight spaces. So he's showing us what he needs to and why people want to do this. And this is, sorry, Allison and HT talking about the hitches. The hitches are a problem. He does do a lot of hitches. The ball pat thing's not Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they ball pat. So I don't think that's too much of a problem there. But what this offense needs to do going forward, like I said, is be Sam friendly. Some of that is, go ahead, Stoner.
Run the ball.
Some of it's that, some of it's scheming those beautiful wide receivers, wide open, short passes, do something to help it out. And we'll see how it goes. We are still very much split on run or pass when we talk about the filthy Philadelphia Eagles here in the game. It's
time to move on, right?
It's time to move on. And we'll talk about that in Philly. I want to get your opinions on that brotherly shove and what needs to be done about it. All that is coming up here on The Game.
The Game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 5 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
Great question here by Justin. Was Sam holding the ball too long because the defense was confusing him, or was it because he is still trying to figure out the offense and timing with wide receivers? What's your thought on that, Stoner?
I think it's all of those. There's not one particular reason.
Yeah. The answer is yes.
Stoner the answer is yes. It's all of those. It's the defense. It's the offensive line. It's Sam holding the ball too long. It's the scheme that Bieniemy is putting him in. It's all of those things.
Sure. I think that there's definitely a lot of factors that go in there, and we've seen it where the timing hasn't been quite there. And I mean, he's only been in this offense and he's worked with these wide receivers, but sometimes chemistry takes a little bit, and we've seen him work with these wide receivers. That's the reason why the touchdown pass to Bieniemy Brown against the Arizona Cardinals, right? I would think it was Arizona Cardinals.
You have to remind me of that again.
That's the one he literally just it might have been a preseason game.
Oh, it was a preseason game.
It was preseason. That's what it wasn't against the Cardinals. It was preseason. He threw that ball before Bieniemy even turned around. Mm-hmm. That ball was in Diami's face with the cornerback draped over Bieniemy. Mm-hmm. And Sam knew that's where Bieniemy was going to be and everything. And that comes from the fact that they've played so long together. So there's some of these things that are going to take some time, but he does hold on to the ball a little bit too long. You can see that he's trying to process. Some of these plays have been longer developing. The line hasn't been doing a great job either of giving him a clean pocket. It does on occasion, and that's where you see some good throws, and then it doesn't, and that's where you see him running into trouble and getting taken down. So Wiley actually had a good rep on one of those sacks where he did what he needed to do. Sam Howell ends up stepping up and leaking out to the right and doesn't get far enough, and Wiley's guy was able to disengage and get to Sam Howell. However, the very next sack, as I mentioned, 4 of those were back to back, or 8 of those sacks were back to back, I guess. The very next one, Wiley just got beat bad.
That was, yeah, it was
like,
the
so
edge.
horrible.
He just came off the edge. Leonard Floyd just came off the edge so fast. Yeah, no shot.
Yeah. So moving on here to Philadelphia.
On. Yeah.
Big discussion this week on the brotherly shove, which, by the way, love the name.
Great name.
It's better than the tush push.
I hope a content creator came up with that and not, like a radio show. I mean, I don't know.
I want to say radio shows are still content creators, but I get your point.
Well, you know what I mean.
I do want to say that it was just some random something in Twitter. Someone was just like, it's called the brotherly shove, and it started getting kind of there. I love the name. Love the name. The play, however, is extremely frustrating because it's just so hard to defend. QB sneaks tend to be difficult to stop anyways, unless you're the Giants running them 3 times in a row. The brotherly shove just takes it to a whole another level there where they get to push off on that. Pro brotherly shove, or should the NFL do something to stop that?
No, I never agree with putting in rules to stop something that people are doing successfully. It's kind of the same way in baseball when they outlawed the shift. I never agreed with outlawing the shift. You figure it out. You figure out how to beat it. So if you can't beat it, that's on you. Don't punish a team that has created an innovative way within the rules to be successful at something. Now, I hope that they come out with a rule tomorrow and say you can't do the brotherly shove anymore. That'd be awesome. But they're not going to. So
at least for week 4 in the NFL.
Yeah.
How about this, Washington? You just don't get them in a position to be 3rd or 4th and short like that. How about that? How about we work on that there?
And Jalen Hurts is so good at it, obviously, because he's just a good quarterback, but he squats like, I don't know what the number is, but if you've seen his thighs and if you've seen him do squats, he squats more than a lot of defensive linemen do.
Have you come around on Hurts as a passer yet?
I have not. I have not come around on him as a passer. I have come around on him a while ago. I did this. He's an excellent quarterback. I have not come around with him on a passer. It's kind of the same as Lamar. It's the same as it was for Josh Allen early on. I thought he was a really good quarterback, but he was not a good passer. But no, I have not come around on him as a good passer. Downfield, he's not great. He can be, and he can do some things, but no, I've not come around on him yet. But again, he's still young too. He's only in his 4th year starting, 3rd year. I feel like when in 2020 is when he played just a tiny bit against Washington at the very end.
Yeah, so because he's 20-1, so last year was his first full season. He's started
second, for the full season.
Yeah,
so this is year 3, I believe. Yeah. So he's still young, so he's going to get better and better at throwing the ball downfield. But I feel like a lot of his downfield throws are just jump balls, and he's got better receivers than teams have cornerbacks, and they just outfight the opposing team. But that's not saying every throw downfield is not good, but I'm just saying consistently he's not great.
Allison telling us it's the third full year, which as our resident Philly fan, we'll have to defer to her.
He throws most of his passes behind the line of scrimmage or within a couple of yards of the line of scrimmage, which is fine. They devised a scheme for him, a system that works well for him with the weapons he has. Get the weapons the ball in space, and that's what they do extremely well. And he's obviously an excellent runner as well. He's just got to get better at downfield throws.
So it's interesting you should say that. Obviously, downfield, you're probably looking at how many yards, Stoner?
Oh, well, downfield, I would say air yards, I would say 20 plus.
Okay. Yeah. So, because I'm looking at his average target depth for his throws, and it might surprise you, 9.2.
And where does that rank?
I don't know where it ranks. I happen to have. I wanted to see it.
Well, and then the other question is, how do they do that? Do they do that from the line of scrimmage, or do they do that from where he throws it? I always wonder that. You know what I mean?
So
Like
the average number of yards thrown per pass by the quarterback, including incomplete passes. It doesn't.
Yeah, and see that includes incomplete passes too.
Yeah, well, it's target.
I'm not saying he doesn't throw the ball downfield. I'm saying he's not very talented at throwing the ball.
It's not his
specialty.
Fair enough.
He's excellent quarterback. Don't twist it. And I even said that last year when he went out and threw for 300 yards against Washington in the first game, and they whooped us up pretty good. And I said I wasn't impressed by Jalen Hurts. I wasn't saying he wasn't successful, but he just wasn't. I wasn't impressed with his throwing down the field. He's not great at it yet, but he's great at everything else, especially winning.
He's a quality one here. Quick aside here, as we were talking about whether or not we're going to ban it. Yeah. We got a couple other ban suggestions. Ban the gritty from Justin. Sure. Doug hitting the one that I wanted to hit here. Ban the turnover celebrations running. I hate this one. Running into the end zone every single time. You guys really need to do it every single time? No, stop running to the dang on end zone. It's only fun. Well, this is my old man screaming at the cloud situation here.
Yeah,
when they have that camera out at the fun one that's out like in the end zone, past the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, get everyone there for like the team picture or whatnot. That's out in like once every blue moon. You don't need to run across the whole field as a team and do a pose in the end zone. It's the dumbest thing in the world.
Didn't they start that in the COVID year?
Probably.
I think they started that in the COVID year, allowing that and having that camera because they didn't have any fans. So they had to like have some way to interact with the fans. So that's why they did that, and they just haven't banned it yet.
Sorry for the quick aside. I happened to see the gritty one, and then I scrolled up and I saw the one I would like banned. Yeah, that'd be great. Back so Jalen Hurts, you're coming around on him as a QB.
100%.
Philadelphia showing this year, I think that they were not a 1-year wonder there, and probably one of the best teams in the NFL, and quite possibly at least no less than the second best team in the NFC.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with that. No worse than the second best team. Sure.
That's pretty lofty here. Washington starting off the week at 8.5-point dogs, Stoner.
Yeah. Whew.
We know you want them to run the ball, but Philadelphia is the hardest team to run against.
Number one.
I am sitting Brian Robinson on my fantasy team.
That's smart. They're number one against the run. They're only giving up 48 yards a game so far through 3 games. I mean, that's sick. Last year, this is Washington again. They should have given Washington half a NFC Championship ring because we wrote the book on how you beat Philadelphia last year. Just run right up the middle. In that game, we ran 48 times, something close to
ridiculous.
That.
It was so bad that they went out and they got Ndamukong Suh and who else? They signed another one.
Joseph.
Right after the game, they're like, this is bad. This is like very, very bad.
And that was the game that I think that was the last game that Jordan Davis did not play because I don't even remember. Maybe he was hurt. But he was their number 1 draft pick, 13th overall, something like that, out of Georgia. I mean, this dude's 6'6", 335. He's a
very, very
massive,
talented young man.
I might be getting Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter mixed up. I do mix them up all the time. I just know they drafted defensive tackles in the first round out of Georgia 2 years in a row, and now they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're playing together on the line, and I don't know how you're expected to run against them. And I just spent 45 minutes preaching about run the ball, run the damn ball. And now I'm saying don't run the ball against Philadelphia because you can't.
You're going to have to try, right?
You're going to have to try. Teams have tried, and Philadelphia is 3-0 of these 3 teams that have tried and have been unsuccessful.
I will say that this year, while I do think that Philadelphia, like I said, is no worse than the second best team in the NFC, they're playing games a lot closer than you would expect.
Sure.
They're not dominating teams.
They haven't hit on all cylinders yet.
Yeah. And so I think Washington might be getting them at the right time. I don't know that Washington's capable of pulling this off, but at least Washington's getting them at the right time here. We got a super chat. Thanks for James here, $10 super chat. Thank you for calling out Chase Young and EB's play calling, knowing you would be attacked by the shills and clowns. Hey, we call it like it is here on Ref the District. We feel like we're responsible for holding the teams accountable, right, Stoner?
That's right. That's how we even got started in this whole game that we call Ref the District. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to hold teams accountable by refereeing what they're doing. So yeah, we'll call them out. Doesn't mean we don't love Chase Young, that we don't love EB, Sam Howell, et cetera, et cetera. We call it like we see it. We're not blind homers. That's 100%. But appreciate you, James, for that. I think he hit us up. I don't remember if he hit us up on Twitter or on our YouTube.
I want to say
page.
It was the YouTube comment section of our instant reaction. I want to say.
Yeah.
Again, appreciate the $10 there, James. So actually, in that regards, let's talk about this. We talked about Philadelphia's defense being hard to run against. We've talked extensively about running or passing the ball, and we're saying it's going to be hard to run against them. Right. So play calling is going to lend itself to more of a passing game and putting Sam potentially under some pressure there. But how about the defensive side of the ball? They held up fairly decent through 4 quarters, 3.5 quarters against the Buffalo Bills, holding them to 16 points before the wheels fell off. Even 23 points. I said that they were guaranteed to score 24.
Yeah.
So 23 points through 3.5 quarters, not too bad for this defense against the Buffalo Bills.
Not terrible.
Will this defense be able to repeat that kind of level of performance against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Wow, man, that's a good question. Philadelphia is not they're not scary yet offensively. I mean, they're 6th overall on offense. So they're pretty balanced. They run the ball extremely well. We know that DeAndre Swift is finally becoming that player that the league thought he was be. Apparently Detroit gave up on him maybe a little too early. But throwing the ball, they're 23rd throwing the ball. And that's kind of what we go back to with Jalen Hurts. He's not necessarily great throwing the ball right now. Last week, we come to find out he was sick. He had flu-like symptoms, and maybe that's what caused a little bit of his poor play. So we might be getting them at the wrong time, Nathan. You said we might be catching them at the right time. We might be getting them at the wrong time to where they're now going to start clicking on all cylinders offensively because they're running the heck out of the ball all over the place. And as I think Gus just said, he said their only scary player is, which I don't agree with, is Devontae Smith. Well, Devontae and A.J. Brown, and you've still got Dallas Goedert over there as a tight end. That's a scary offensive team to me, even though they're not necessarily lighting it up throwing the ball.
Yeah, Goddard has been a very big disappointment for my fantasy team. Yeah, he's probably going to blow up this game against Washington because one of the problems on this defensive side of the ball is Cody Barton. That's the sniff test, that's the eyeball test, that's the PFF scores,
all of it.
That's everything showing that Cody Barton right now is not doing well. How much of a hindrance is he going to be here with another mobile quarterback?
Yeah.
And Dallas Goedert being a quality tight end. Now, for what it's worth, Washington's not really giving up too much against tight ends this year.
Right.
3 games in, mind you. But, you still have to deal with that mobile quarterback. We saw that being a problem with Josh Allen just last week.
Man, it's so tough to figure out how you're going to defend it. What they decided to do, at least it looked that way while watching the game against Josh Allen, is they decided to not attack Josh Allen and try to keep him in the pocket and make him beat the defense downfield. Well, that's exactly what Josh Allen did. And I think they have to do the same thing with Jalen Hurts. they can't be ultra aggressive against him. They've got to stay in their lanes rushing and keep him in that pocket and make him throw the ball downfield. Cody Barton, being the middle linebacker, being the green dot, he's the guy that communicates the entire defense. He plays such an important role, even though physically he lacks what you need to be effective defensively from the linebacker spot. So Jamin Davis, this game is going to be on Jamin Davis,
who had a good game against the Bills.
He's
actually had a good season so far.
He has. He actually really has. They didn't use a spy against Josh Allen. I saw a couple of times Cam Curl did a little bit, but they didn't really use a spy. I'd like to see them use a spy on Jalen Hurts, and I'd just like to see that to be Jamin Davis. Take your chances with Cody Barton covering the tight end, or bring Cam Curl up to get the tight end, which he does quite often in the Buffalo nickel alignment. And those defensive linemen have got to stay in their lanes. They cannot let Jalen Hurts get outside the pocket. They can't do it. He's going to kill them if they let him out. If he gets away up the middle, God bless him, he defeated your plan, but just don't let him get outside.
I mean, we saw Jamin Davis's side-to-side speed there when he was able to take down Russell Wilson in week 2. So hopefully they're going to be able to contain him there. I want to address Luke's comment here. They haven't needed to throw the ball with Swift running the ball so well. That's partially true. And this is why I don't like bulk stats as much as I like drive type stats. And because an efficiency stats like EPA are great ones at this, because you might have the number one rushing offense, which is why you're passing one, or you've been blowing teams out 70-20, and you don't necessarily need to pass the ball when you're up that way, right? So you don't have the lofty passing stats that are there. So efficiency stats are where I tend to like, and that Philadelphia is below average on efficiency. So when it comes to passing, now they are above average when it comes to rushing. So it's just something to think about when it comes to that. It's not necessarily this is why you don't really want to watch the box score, and you need to watch it. You need to watch the game unfold, and you need to really see it for yourself, because box scores can be very, very misleading. I mean, I think Steve from Command This had brought up Sam Howell only missed, if you look at his passes thrown and completion, I think he only missed 10 passes against the Bills. Then he also had 4 interceptions. So it's just like, we only look at those. Yeah, they don't count those.
They don't count those because they weren't missed, because they were right to the defender.
Somebody caught him.
Yeah, somebody caught him. Yeah, and I think also what's noteworthy is, we don't talk about it enough, is the play of Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller this season,
really good,
has been very good against Buffalo. He allowed a 0.00 QB rating. He only had 1 completion in front of him for like 2 yards, I believe, in the entire game. Kendall Fuller's been playing really well. He's going to have to play well again this week, because A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I call him Devontae Smith-Pelly, they are excellent receiver. Quez Watkins is no slouch either. And that's their third guy. Yeah. They've got so much weapons, and it's just going to be about, can Jalen Hurts exploit this defense effectively with those weapons? And if we're going to get frustrated, because he's going to be dumping off these short ones. He's going to throw these quick outs across the middle. I know you gave that stat about air yards, but he just doesn't throw the ball effectively down the field very well. So you're going to have to count on that. But I mean, it's a tough task. They were in the Super Bowl for a reason last year.
Yeah,
there's a reason he's 21. Is it 21-1 or 20-1?
He's 20-1, I believe. Maybe it's now 21-1.
Yeah, I can't remember
winning. Right. I want to say they won Monday night, so that makes it 21-1.
Yeah, he's 21.
The stat kept getting pushed around. He's 20-1. He's 20-1. So I think it was 21-1.
There's a reason for that. That offensive line is fantastic. The holes that DeAndre Swift had to run through, I could have ran through those holes. Might have taken me a step maybe a step and a half later than DeAndre Swift. I've still got a few wheels left. But yeah, that offensive line is fantastic. So Washington's got their work cut out for them. Again, they were in the Super Bowl last year for a reason. They did not fluke their way to the Super Bowl.
No, they're very, very solid team there. I was trying to see if I could bring up the last 3 games against the Philadelphia Eagles for Washington, as they are 2-1
in the
last 3 over Philadelphia. It's going to take something big for Washington to overcome this. I don't think it's going to be nearly a blowout. I think 8.5 points is a little too much to give Philadelphia. But I mean, after coming off of this loss against Buffalo, I can see why there's some doubts, especially when Sam Howell's taking as many sacks as he is. Without getting too far into the game predictions, Stoner.
Yeah.
What do you expect, and how many sacks is Sam Howell going to find himself, taking this game? And how is Eric Bieniemy going to help Sam Howell out this game?
I think you're going to see something different. I think you're going to see finally that Eric Bieniemy is going to make some adjustments. He sees this 3-game trend, sacks, not running the ball enough, and he's going to make the necessary adjustments, and he's going to have more quick throws, more move in the pocket, more running, more screens over and over, and keep the ball out of Philadelphia's hands as much as you can. So that's the key for Washington to offset that defense, and any defense at this point against Washington. They seem to just be able to tee off on Sam Howell. He's got to adjust. If he doesn't adjust this game, then I'm going to start losing faith in him, because it's now a 3-game trend. It's not this past game, all of a sudden he got sacked a lot. He's on pace for 107 sacks, which is obviously a massive record. To David Carr's 76. Crushes that. So
right.
He's got to make adjustments.
It's not even one of these situations where you're like, well, he's played one more game. No. He didn't get sacked 20 plus times in one game. That's how bad it is. Washington without Logan Thomas against the Buffalo Bills, I personally don't really think that was that big of a deal. I thought Cole Turner did pretty well. Logan Thomas back at practice today. Do you think we'll see Logan Thomas back on the field against Philadelphia?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll probably give him another week. I mean, he was at practice, but he wasn't even allowed to wear a helmet today. So he was out there, but just doing drills and such. So I think it's still going to be a little bit for Logan. He's proven to be a little bit of a slow healer. So let's just get him back to 100%.
He's in his 30s, and as a fellow 30-plus-year-old, I can respect how long it takes to heal up from some
But
things.
Cole Turner was very good in this game, both receiving and blocking. And on tomorrow's Daily Commanders update, I'm going to break down each of Brian Robinson's 10 runs, especially the successful ones, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what Cole Turner was doing. He was blocking extremely well on those run plays, which has been his weakness. He's done pretty good. So make sure you look out for that tomorrow on the Daily Commanders update. Do a little impromptu film session of B-Rob's 10 runs.
That's going to be fantastic. Brian Robinson's going to have a very successful day, obviously having a very great day on just 10 rushes. He's not getting nearly as many snaps as Antonio Gibson. Now, part of that's by design when they're so pass happy, and Antonio Gibson is by far the better pass blocker, as we saw on that failed 4th down trying to goal for goal. And Brian Robinson just got blown up.
Yep, absolutely. Which is surprising that Gibson is a better pass blocker at this point than, I mean, Gibson, they're the same size.
Yeah.
People think Gibson is a little smaller than B-Rob. He's not. He's the same size as Brian Robinson. But yeah, he's a little bit better pass blocker.
Well, I think part of it is where both of them kind of excel, right? So Brian Robinson is more of a pure runner. Antonio Gibson's more of a pass catcher with his wide receiver background. And so he's used to kind of being in that role, and he's kind of wanted to carve that role out, the JD McKissick role, as he referred to it earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
These running backs are, we mentioned, going to have some tough sledding against this Philadelphia defense. Does the trend continue with Antonio Gibson out snapping Brian Robinson essentially 2-1?
I sure hope not. I sure hope. Again, he's got to make adjustments offensively. Eric Bieniemy does. He can't just look at that and say, I'm happy with the way things have been going offensively. I've got to change it. I've got to do some things differently. Why you think Brian Robinson only deserves 10 touches in a game is beyond
20
me.
snaps is how many snaps he had, right?
20 snaps. 20 snaps the entire game for Brian Robinson, who is your most effective offensive player last week. That doesn't make sense. EB looks at this stuff. Ron looks at this stuff. They all look at it, and they'll see the trends now after 3 games and start making adjustments.
Well, the Gus Bus failed to remind me of his ludicrous statement earlier. They did have some discussion there. Gus is saying, this game is going to be a wash for the Commanders.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Gus says, just sit all the starters.
Yeah.
Bring in the backups. Move on. Keep them well rested for Chicago, which is a winnable game. What do you have to say to Gus and those who agreed with him? There was a couple people in the chat, I think, who agreed with them.
Gus,
yeah,
we love you. We do have a way of putting you in timeout, and I'm not afraid to use it because that is a statement that's worthy of a 5-minute timeout.
The behind the scenes stuff here is Gus is saying NBA manages players and their playing time. Why can't the Commanders be ahead of the curve in the NFL and start doing that a little bit? And
the NBA plays 82 games.
Not all the starters.
The NBA plays 82 games. There are a few games through the course of the year that are not important whether you win or lose. NFL, every single week is important. There's only 17 games that these guys play. One loss could be the difference between getting in the playoffs and not.
It gets kind of hyper-focused there at the end because those games, feel and that playoff push a little bit more important. But, I mean, you could look at last season where Washington had 4 or 5 tries to essentially secure a playoff spot. Yeah. They were gifted multiple redos and failed at every opportunity to end up in the playoffs. And
one game last year, they would have been in the playoffs.
One game, Tennessee, right, where Carson Wentz throws that interception in the end zone. If they score there instead of throwing the interception, you're in the playoffs.
If you don't tie the Giants and you beat them, you're in the playoffs.
We're not forgetting there's a short turnaround for Chicago, but you have that every season.
Yeah, and every team does.
Yeah,
every team has a Thursday game. So
this is probably more likely what's going to happen is what Allison's saying is rotating players more. And I think that's probably a little bit more realistic.
Oh, good. Give Brian Robinson less snaps. That sounds great. Give your best players less snaps.
We've talked extensively with the run pass option, but we didn't talk about it in necessarily too much run pass for this offense. Yes. Sam Howell on the mic today saying the player I was Sunday is not who I am. I go back to my process, never losing that confidence. In this league, you have to stay confident. Howell also said ever since the game ended, he was excited about this one just to get a chance to play again. That's John Keim reporting on that one.
100% agree with that. I'm excited as a fan. I'm excited to see how they respond to this game, to see how they prepare. We talked about it at the end of the game. Maybe it was our instant reaction on Sunday, is that this team is full of veteran leaders, Terry McLaurin's, the John Allens, the Jeremy Reeves, guys like that, the Tress Way even. They are full of professionals that are going to come in this week and are going to put in the work and be pissed off about that game and they're going to have a good response. I'm not saying they're definitely going to win, but they're not going to get blown out like they did against Buffalo. No way. So
I do think it's going to be a stronger game for Washington, and I think it's going to be a very exciting on the offensive line side of this. So the team, what I've appreciated so far from what I'm hearing is there's a lot of self accountability. What everybody is talking right now of what can I do better to improve the team, and that is a great mentality to have. And so Jerry here pointing out what Jerry thinks are the weakest links: left tackle and left guard. Each of them have their issues by and large. But if you're looking at the offensive line, right tackle is far more of a need than left tackle. Charles Leno has been serviceable. I get he's not Trent Williams. He's not part of the Hogs unit. He's not elite by any means, but he's been a very serviceable left tackle. Sam Cosmi's been just electric at right guard. Wiley's been deficient at right tackle.
He's been bad.
Charles has his moments at left guard. He's also got his bad moments at left guard. And Nick Gates at center, I kind of miss a guy who can't even Chase Roulier, who can't even be on the field 90% of the time. Yeah.
And Nick Gates, he's got a mean streak to him. He will defend you at a moment's notice. He's that kind of a guy, but he's just not super skilled as a center, as an offensive lineman. So they have to work together. They have to do better. They just have to figure it out, because there's, Trent Williams is not walking through that door. You're not going out and trading for some all-pro left tackle. It doesn't happen. This is what they got. And you've got to figure out a way. And I've said it over and over and over again. I said it when they signed these guys way back then. EB's got to figure out a way to scheme so that you don't have that glaring problem. You just can't have Sam going back and having these deep drops all the time. You know that offensive line is deficient. So scheme around it.
So as far as that scheme's concerned, then Stoner, what are you expecting from Eric Bieniemy this game against Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm just expecting a lot of short passes, more screen passes, rolling Sam out a little bit, getting him out of that pocket so he's just not a sitting duck over there. More run plays, maybe some read options, because maybe Sam will run a little bit more. So I just expect to see a lot different game plan, because all I saw last week, and really the first three games, is I saw same thing we saw last year with Scott Turner. I just saw a lot of deep drops, waiting for guys to get open, and a quarterback who couldn't get it there. Last year he couldn't get it there because he didn't have the arm strength. This year the quarterback can't get it there because he's not processing fast enough, or whatever it is, or they're not, whatever. It's just too many deep drops. So Bieniemy's got to change it up. He has to, especially against his defense.
Yep. Does have to. Allison bringing up Nick Gates as an enforcer.
That's
Absolutely.
What he
is. He is. I love that.
You know why you call him an enforcer? Because he's not a skilled player. So you have to give him like a different role. Enforcers in the NHL are not skilled players.
Right. Yeah. Your enforcers tend to be like, you have a line shift specifically for these guys to come in. Right. Just beat the bricks off of somebody. And Nick Gates is that. I love. That's why I gave him my go a few weeks ago when Logan Thomas got racked. Right.
Oh yeah.
Nick Gates was the one who went in there and was pushing around guys. So like you're not going to mess with them. And I love that mentality. I do wish that he'd pick up the obvious stunts that are done right in front of him.
Right. Or block the guy right in front of him.
Maybe he's going to have a couple of big ones to block this week against Philadelphia. Let's go ahead and make our game predictions, the final score predictions. We'll do more of our game predictions in week 4 predictions here for the cool down. Let's get those end of game scores in the comment section. Of course, if you're listening to this on audio, you can always hit us up at Ref the District and let us know your score there as well. Stoner, what do you got?
Yep. All right. Mine's pretty simple. Washington. Let's go. Let's start with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is averaging scoring 28 points a game. Washington's defense is averaging giving up 28.7. So Philadelphia is going to score 28 points. Right? Washington's offense is averaging scoring 19.3 points per game.
That sounds familiar, Stoner.
Yeah, it does. The Eagles' defense is averaging giving up 19.7 points per game. Washington's going to score 19 points. The score will be Philadelphia 28, Washington 19.
The odds may ever be in his favor. He's picking Philadelphia there. Allison going with her birds as well, 30-8. Mike
30-8. Get out of here with that, Allison. 30-8.
21-10 Philadelphia from Mike. Good to see you in here, Mike. Jerry 47-17. If you're new here to Ref the District, if you do not put the team, we will always assume you mean Washington.
That's right.
And I will take a
Washington.
47-17 victory there, Jerry, for there. Redskin 007 27-17. TJ with the 24-23 Washington. A couple Washingtons in there. Gus Bus. If we sit Howell, McLaurin, Fuller, and Allen on the NBA rest cycle, then Philadelphia 34, Washington 13. If we play everyone, then Philadelphia 27, Washington 17.
Much difference.
So
A little bit.
21-10. Good guy, says Uptown Dre. Kim taking 27-20 Washington. A lot of Washington hopefuls here. And I do think this is going to be a closer game than what most people predict. Now, I think they would cover, right? Would they cover?
Not by my scenario.
20, because yours is 28-19.
28-19, yeah. So
which is 9 points.
27.5. Yeah, so Washington would not cover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Philly would cover.
Philly would cover.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be closer than that. I think it's going to be. I am going to take Philadelphia. I'm going to say 26 to. Oh man, we'll do 18. 26 to 18.
That's basically what I had.
That way they barely
cover.
That way they barely cover there. Yeah, Allison, I believe at least a day and a half ago, 2 days ago, the spread was 8.5. I actually had it up here. I can actually bring it back.
That sounds about right. 8.5. That's
it was.
I don't know if it's moved much.
It is now 8. The line's 8 now.
Oh, okay.
So
8. That yours is not a. Well, I guess yours is a cover.
Yeah.
No, yours is a push. Yeah,
it's a push. Philadelphia 31-24 from Luke. Howell showing something, and I'll go 35-31 Washington. Ooh, if Howell shows up. Yeah, Mike, it's hard. It's hard after the butt whooping Washington got last week against the Bills to not be a realist, right? Mike saying I'm a homer, but I'm also a realist. Yeah, it's a little rough, but hey, we need to put those realist thoughts behind us because we are headed to the cool down and we need those bold predictions. Get those dollars ready here, folks, as we head into the cool down. As I'm looking for the right, there we go.
The cool down is brought to you by Manscaped. Ever since my Nathan started using their products, I can't cool down. Fellas, trust me. Go to Manscaped right now and get 20% off and free shipping by using the code REF. Your ladies will appreciate you. Now back to Trev, Stoner, and my Manscaped man, Nathan.
No Trev to help us through this dollar session here, Stoner.
Those are usually easy wins.
Easy victories. Trev got pulled away by work. We understand. Get that bread there, Trev. We love you. We miss you. And we love making these crazy bold predictions here. I did see a few people put some of those beautiful dollar signs. Of course, if you're new to Ref the District, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and then understand dollar is not real money.
Nope.
It's just fun. And it is bold game prediction time.
All right.
You got one right off the bat for me, Stoner?
Oh, right off the bat. Yeah. I think we get let me start with, I think we get a pick off of Jalen Hurts. Is that bold enough?
I mean, it's probably bold enough after what we've seen from this defense.
All right.
Yeah, I will agree with you though. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to go against it. Maybe if you went with 2, how about 2 turnovers?
I wanted to start
2
with
turnovers.
Ooh, will you go?
I will take the under if you take the 2 turnovers.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Turnovers it is.
Now this one I'm going under. I do believe Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell, they're going to adjust.
Okay.
Right? And I do think that Sam Howell talked about how he's just like, no, we're going to go back here and we're going to take a look at this and I'm going to try to improve this. Allison saying 10 plus sacks of Sam Howell.
I mean, I'll bet my 401k that they don't get 10 sacks.
Oh man, do not empty your 401k.
I'm emptying it.
B-Rob will have 20 carries and a rushing touchdown. Washington's got to win if that's the case, right? Like,
yeah.
Is there a scenario
he's not
that you can see him having 20 carries and a touchdown and Washington losing?
Yeah, sure. I can see that. But if he's getting 20 carries, that means they've been successful running the ball. So that means they're holding on to the ball and keeping Philly's offense off the field. But yeah, you can still lose with that. What was yours? You said under, but I don't think you ever finished what you're under.
I was saying I was taking the way under on the 10 sacks.
Oh, on the 10 sacks.
Yeah, I'm not doing that one.
Yeah.
I am also under on this one. Cole Turner having an 80 plus receiving yard game.
Does he have 80 for the year?
Probably not. Games? I will say this is going to be Jahan Dotson's game.
Ooh.
How about 8 targets for Jahan Dotson?
All right, I'll go under that.
All right.
At least 8 targets
for Jahan Dotson.
8 plus targets. I'm going under that. Stoner.
I just feel like I do think Terry McLaurin's going to still get his. I still think that they're going to try to get Terry McLaurin the ball. But Dotson has been kind of very like, I thought this was going to be a Jahan Dotson breakout year. And we're 3 games into it, and I don't think he's cracked 100 yards yet. Stoner.
I think he only has 10 catches. He has 16 targets for the entire year. 16 targets.
Not good. Curtis Samuel is the lead receiver for Washington, which I don't think anyone would have guessed that to be the case.
Sam's dropping back all the time, and he's targeted Terry and Jahan 16 times each, and that's it. Who's the dude? Who's the guy in freaking the Chargers? Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Had 18 catches, not targets. He had 18 catches last week, and our guy Terry McLaurin has 16 targets all year.
To be fair, that's 30% of Sam's throws are going to Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. He's only had 99 attempts.
30%. What was the number? What was that 30%? Stephon Diggs before this past game, I don't know what it is now. Yeah, he was 30%.
He was 28% of the offense all by himself. Yeah.
And I don't know how many targets he had in this game. He had like 12, didn't he? He had like 8 catches for 100 and something yards. I mean, come on, target these guys a little bit more. If you're going to go back there all the time, I guess when you're back there getting sacked, you can't throw it.
A couple good ones here. I'm going to go with Kim's first. Terry will outrun Slay. Slay's kind of the age is starting to get there. I think Stoner on big game Slay there.
I don't know. He's darn good. He's darn good. But he has always said that Terry is one of his toughest.
Yep.
So yeah, I can see Terry getting the best of Slay this game.
How about Luke's? Howell will throw 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Let's see. How much is
I was that bold last week, Luke.
How much is left in my 401k?
It did not pan out. It did not pan out for me last week. This week, I had 3 touchdowns, and Trev agreed with me, and I knew the moment Trev was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm with you, Nathan." I was like, "Ah, dang it,
trouble!
I'm in trouble." Mike gonna go with 2 picks and a touchdown for Sam Howell.
2 picks, so 1 TD, 2 picks. Interesting. That sounds more in line. I don't think he's gonna have more than 1 pick. I don't know that he's gonna have any.
I'm with you on that one. I really feel like this is going to be a much more of a game manager mode for him.
Yes.
And so he's going to probably take quite a few lickings, but I don't think he's going to be as bad as we saw against Buffalo. Bradbury getting 1+ interception.
No, because Sam's not throwing any.
I'm with you on this one. How about Devontae Smith, 150 receiving yards?
Wow.
He did just on Washington. Had a big game.
On who? Kendall Fuller, who's a top 5 corner right now, statistically. Emmanuel Forbes, who's the number 1 corner rookie-wise, statistically. I just saw a tweet from our guy Dove, who said passer rating against rookies. Forbes has the lowest passer rating amongst rookies, even better than Christian Gonzalez, who's getting more hype than
Christian Gonzalez is getting a lot of hype out there in New England.
Yeah. So or is he going to do it against St. Juice?
Benjamin St. Juice locking him up.
So no, he's not getting 150 yards.
How about no, we already said that one. DeAndre Swift having 175 scrimmage yards.
Come on. Stop, Gus. Well, I mean, he's got Devontae Smith with 150 receiving, DeAndre Swift with 175 scrimmage yards. I mean, 2 guys are going to have 325 yards.
That's why we call them bold predictions, Stoner. Bold predictions here.
Swift had a really nice game. I mean, he had not really nice game. He had a great game in his last game. He's not going to do it again.
I'd rather think Washington's side here, and TJ bringing us back to that. Washington's defense getting 3+ sacks of Jalen Hurts. Yeah. How often has Jalen Hurts been sacked this year?
I actually have that here. He has been sacked 8 times. They've given up 8 sacks this year in 3 games. So almost 3 a game. That would be right on the average.
Yeah, 1 against Tampa, 4 against Minnesota, 3 against New England. I'm going to go under 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go under 3 as well.
That's rough.
The turnover margin, the Eagles are 3rd in turnover margin at +4, and Washington is tied for 24th at -3. That's what happens when you have 5.
I was about to say, when you have 5 turnovers, it's not a great game for you, and it's definitely going to. It was actually -4, right? Because the Bills gave us 1 interception. Fuller got the interception.
Oh, right? You mean total for the game?
Yeah, for the game was -4. So
yeah. Although
rough,
you should count the turnover on downs when they gave it up after not making it on 4th down. They don't count that in the turnovers, but they should.
It's not. Wow, young OG Nick coming in here.
All right, Nick, don't come in here and starting stuff here. All right.
Washington's defense is not that elite.
Discussion.
Tell you what, I have to agree. Right now, they're not nearly as dominant as we were thinking they were going to be, but it's still early in the season. We have seen this quite a bit from Washington's defenses where they start off the year a little slow and then start to pick up steam later on. So what you're seeing right now, which is kind of good but not great, is going to be elite by the end of the season. So just be wary of that, Nick, just to let you know.
They're 13th against the pass, and they're 22nd against the run. And they're 27th in scoring, which is really bad. Although when you get when you make the stat for scoring, you take the whole score. Well, their defense didn't give up the pick 6. That's not fair to me, but they use that in the stats. So it might be a little bit better because that shouldn't count against the D.
This one from Mike Sweat and Young having 4 sacks together. I know we're both against this one because we said that they weren't going to have 3 sacks. Let's dial this down. How about Chase Young with a sack this game?
I think he'll have a sack. I like it.
You're with me on that one?
Yeah. I think Chase has a sack.
All right. How about, I'm trying to think because I want to say the defense probably going to end up with 2 sacks.
I think so too.
So who gets the other one?
I think it's going to be Jonathan Allen and John Ridgeway meet at the quarterback, so they get a half each.
You gonna put that one down?
No, you asked me. You didn't say who you want to put.
I'm trying to get you to be Trev here and be super
No.
specific.
I ain't crazy.
Just pick a player. How about let's pick a player for another sack? How's that? I'm gonna take Deron Payne.
You'll take Payne. I'm gonna take. Do I want to be really bold? I'm gonna say Jamin. I'm gonna say Jamin is gonna be spying. And then he comes up and he tackles him for like a half a yard loss or right at the line of scrimmage. It's a sack, baby.
Yeah. He's going to get one of those push out sacks that you hate so much.
Yeah, one of those. That's right.
That's
Jamin gets a sack, and you say, who'd you say, Allen? No, you said Payne.
Deron Payne. I think Deron Payne benefits, and he has these absolute elite flashes that you love to see. He benefits from having monsters. Not that Deron Payne's not a great player in his own right, but he has Jonathan Allen, who I believe is an all-pro level player. And he also has Montez Sweat and Chase Young, who are aggressive and good edge rushers, where Deron Payne gets one-on-ones and he's just too good. So he's gonna get in there and get
that's fair.
A big time stop there. I think we've got enough bold predictions. We'll have a lot more bold predictions as we'll be streaming our play-by-play and commentary on Sunday. So be sure to check us out for that. Stoner's already told you he's going to be bringing you the Daily Commanders update tomorrow with Brian Robinson's 10 runs. You're not going to want to miss that. We want to look at something positive as we head into Philadelphia, and Washington needs to get that victory. Although I will say, Stoner, 2-2, better than you thought they were going to be.
2-2 going into Chicago, going to play Chicago, not that you're going to Chicago, but going into the Chicago game. I mean, you don't hate it. You hate how you got there, but you don't hate it.
Well, I tell you what, Washington's going to be 16-1 until we find out otherwise. We'll be seeing that game on Sunday. We will have a game preview for you on Saturday, so make sure you check out that. And of course, we'll have your Daily Commanders update on Friday. For any last news, you can find us here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe wherever you're at, get those auto downloads. And until next time,
get that button ready, Nathan. Get that button ready. Run the ball.
Be a fan.